Welcome to Vale of the Bible, where ancient stories come alive with drama and truth. I'm your narrator, bringing you the most powerful biblical tales ever told. Subscribe now and join our community of truth seekers. Today, you'll witness the most terrifying moment in biblical history, a story so shocking that it will challenge everything you think you know about divine authority and the consequences of rebellion against God. Picture this: 250 respected leaders, men of influence and power, standing together in open defiance. Their challenge: to question the very foundation of divine leadership through Moses and Aaron. But what happened next defied all natural laws. The earth itself became God's instrument of judgment, opening its mouth to swallow the rebellious alive. This is the story of Korah and his sons. Get ready for a journey into the desert where pride met divine justice, where the ground beneath men's feet became their grave, and where some found redemption even in the midst of catastrophe. Our story begins in the wilderness, where the Israelites had been wandering for months. The excitement of freedom from Egypt had faded, replaced by the harsh reality of desert life and constant dependence on God. Among the people lived Korah, a Levite from a distinguished family. He was not just any ordinary man. He was a cousin of Moses and Aaron, a man of influence respected by many in the camp. Alongside Korah were Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab from the tribe of Reuben. These men had status, followers, and most dangerously of all, they had growing resentment toward Moses' leadership. Day after day, as the people faced hardships in the desert, whispers began to spread through the camp. Why should Moses and Aaron have all the authority? Aren't we all holy people? Doesn't God speak to all of us? These weren't random complaints from troublemakers. These were calculated questions from influential leaders who began to see an opportunity to challenge the established order that God himself had set in place. Korah's position as a Levite gave him access to sacred duties, but it also gave him a close view of the privileges that Moses and Aaron enjoyed as God's chosen leaders. Envy began to poison his heart. The seed of rebellion found fertile ground in the frustrations of desert life. Water shortages, food concerns, the uncertainty of their journey all became fuel for the growing fire of discontent. Dathan and Abiram from the tribe of Reuben felt they deserved more recognition. After all, Reuben was Jacob's firstborn. Why should Moses from the tribe of Levi hold such absolute power over them? Secret meetings began to take place. Under the cover of darkness, these men started gathering others who shared their frustrations. What started as complaints was rapidly becoming a coordinated revolt. The conspiracy grew bolder. Korah used his influence among the Levites, while Dathan and Abiram rallied support from their tribal connections. They were building an army of rebellion, one recruit at a time. Each passing day brought new converts to their cause. Respected elders, influential family heads, men who commanded respect in their communities, all began to question whether God had really given Moses exclusive authority. The rebels started to believe their own propaganda. They convinced themselves that they were fighting for democracy, for the rights of all God's people. They forgot that they were actually fighting against God's chosen structure. Korah became the primary spokesman for this growing movement. His charisma and family connection to Moses gave him credibility. He knew exactly what to say to make people question everything they had accepted. The stage was set for confrontation. What had begun as private grumbling was about to explode into the most dramatic showdown between human ambition and divine authority in biblical history. Little did these men know that their rebellion would become a warning for all generations. Their names would be remembered not for their influence or intelligence, but for the terrible price of challenging God's chosen order. The moment of confrontation arrived like thunder in a clear sky. Korah, backed by 250 well-known community leaders, marched boldly toward Moses and Aaron. The entire camp watched in stunned silence. "You have gone too far," Korah declared, his voice carrying across the camp. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is with them. Why then do you set yourselves above the Lord's assembly?" These weren't the words of a madman. They sounded reasonable, even democratic. Korah presented his challenge as if he were defending the rights of the people against tyrannical leadership. Moses' reaction was immediate and telling. He fell face down before God, not in fear of men, but in recognition that this challenge wasn't really against him. It was against the Lord who had appointed him. "Tomorrow morning," Moses announced, rising from prayer, "the Lord will show who belongs to him and who is holy, and he will have that person come near him. The man he chooses will be the one who may come near him." The crowd held its breath. Moses was proposing a divine test, a direct appeal to God to settle this dispute once and for all. There would be no human politics, no voting, no compromise, only God's verdict. "You, Korah, and all your followers are to do this," Moses continued. "Take censers, and tomorrow put burning coals and incense in them before the Lord. The man the Lord chooses will be the one who is holy." The challenge was accepted. Korah and his 250 supporters would each bring a censer filled with incense, the same offering that only the high priest was authorized to make. They were claiming the right to approach God directly. But Moses wasn't finished. He turned specifically to Korah and delivered words that cut to the heart of the rebellion. "You Levites have gone too far. Isn't it enough that the God of Israel has separated you from the rest? Isn't it enough," Moses continued, "that he has brought you near himself to do the work at the Lord's tabernacle and to stand before the community and minister to them? Now you want the priesthood too." Moses had exposed the real motivation. It wasn't about democracy or the rights of the people. It was about personal ambition, about wanting more power, more privilege, more access to the sacred things of God. Then Moses called for Dathan and Abiram to come and answer for themselves, but their response revealed the depth of their rebellion. "We will not come. Isn't it enough that you brought us out of Egypt to kill us in the wilderness?" Their accusation was stunning in its audacity. They called Egypt, the land of their slavery, a land flowing with milk and honey, and accused Moses of making false promises about the promised land. "Moreover," they continued their attack, "you haven't brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, or given us fields and vineyards as our inheritance. Do you want to treat these men like slaves?" Moses was deeply grieved by their accusations. He had sacrificed everything to lead God's people to freedom, and now they were calling him a deceiver and a tyrant. The ingratitude was overwhelming. The next morning arrived with an electric tension in the air. Word had spread throughout the entire camp. Today, God himself would settle the question of leadership once and for all. Korah and his 250 followers appeared at the entrance to the tent of meeting, each carrying a bronze censer filled with burning coals and incense. They stood defiantly, ready to prove their point. The sight was both impressive and terrifying. These weren't random troublemakers. They were the elite of Israel, men whose families traced back to the patriarchs, leaders who commanded respect in their tribes. Moses and Aaron took their positions, but they weren't alone. The glory of the Lord appeared before the entire assembly, a manifestation so powerful that it left no doubt about who was really in charge. Then came words that chilled every heart. "Separate yourselves from this assembly, so I can put an end to them at once." God's patience with rebellion had reached its limit. But Moses and Aaron fell face down again, interceding for the people. "O God, the God who gives breath to all living things, will you be angry with the entire assembly when only one man sins?" God's mercy was evident in his response. He would not destroy everyone, but he commanded Moses, "Tell the assembly to move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." Moses stood before the crowd and delivered a chilling warning. "Move back from the tents of these wicked men. Do not touch anything belonging to them, or you will be swept away because of all their sins." The people began to move, creating a circle of separation around the rebels' tents. Families grabbed their children, elders hurried away. Everyone could sense that something unprecedented was about to happen. Dathan and Abiram stood defiantly at the entrances of their tents, their wives and children beside them. They had chosen their side, and there would be no backing down now. Moses raised his voice so all could hear. "This is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things, and that it was not my idea. If these men die a natural death, then the Lord has not sent me." The stakes couldn't be higher. Moses was putting his entire ministry on the line. If God didn't act, Moses would be exposed as a fraud. If God did act, it would be the most dramatic display of divine judgment ever witnessed. "But if the Lord brings about something totally new," Moses continued, his voice building with supernatural authority, "and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them with everything that belongs to them." The crowd held its collective breath. Moses was predicting something that had never happened before in human history, the earth itself becoming an instrument of divine judgment. "And they go down alive into the realm of the dead," Moses concluded. "Then you will know that these men have treated the Lord with contempt." The prophecy was complete. Now everyone waited for God's response. As soon as Moses finished speaking, the impossible happened. The ground beneath Korah, Dathan, and Abiram began to tremble, crack, and split apart with a sound like thunder from below. The earth opened its mouth like a hungry beast. In a moment of pure terror, these proud men who had challenged God's authority found themselves falling alive into the depths of the earth. Their screams echoed from the pit as they disappeared forever, along with their families and all their possessions. The earth closed over them as if they had never existed, leaving only silence and shock. But God wasn't finished demonstrating his power. Fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. In an instant, their unauthorized worship became their funeral pyre. The entire assembly fled in terror, screaming, "The earth is going to swallow us too." They had witnessed the raw power of divine justice, and it left them trembling with fear and awe. The bronze censers of the 250 men were hammered into sheets to overlay the altar, serving as a permanent reminder of this day. Every time future generations saw that bronze, they would remember the cost of rebellion. Yet in this story of judgment, we find an incredible demonstration of God's mercy. Not all of Korah's sons participated in the rebellion, and they were spared to continue their family line. These surviving sons of Korah would go on to become some of the most beautiful worship leaders in Israel's history. Many psalms bear their name, turning their family's tragedy into songs of praise and devotion. Their story teaches us that we are not bound by our family's failures. God's grace can transform even the darkest family history into a testimony of redemption and new beginnings. From rebellion to worship, from judgment to mercy, the sons of Korah show us that no matter where we come from, we can choose to honor God's authority and find our place in his perfect plan. What lessons do you take from this powerful story? How does it challenge your understanding of authority and humility? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our biblical stories. And make sure to watch our latest video that reveals another incredible moment of divine intervention.